Roxy. Thanks for joining us today.
So, what are we drinking, Roxanne? This came from your collection.
It did come from my collection. We are drinking today a Zinfandel from a company called Rust. And again, this is in the Okanagan. And it's a lovely winery. So you know what I did? Because I wanted to know what should we drink with what we're eating tonight? And what is Zinfandel? What does it taste like? Are we going to like it? All the things. Anyway, so I found out that Zinfandel is lighter in color than both Cab Sauv and Merlot. And it's a light-bodied red wine like Pinot Noir. But the tannin is moderate, which is why we don't get that icky feeling.
Right.
And it's got fairly high acidity though, so it makes it taste bold. And that's what I'm getting from this one. Like it's immediately a bigger tasting feeling wine. Generally speaking, most Zins have higher alcohol, ranging from about 14 to 17%. So watch out. Well, we'll have a good time. But here's the takeaway for today. In Italy, Zinfandel is called Primitivo.
Oh,
so if we see Primitivo wine,
when we're in there, we're there. That's interesting.
Keeping with our theme.
No, that's interesting. Yep. So I never, like, I know the main ones. You know, I know Cabs and Merlots and that kind of thing, and Pinot Noir, because I did a lot of work with Tourism New Zealand, and you know they've got
they're Pinot Noir.
Yeah, they have Pinot Noir. Like their Sauvignon Blanc is the big thing.
Yeah.
But they do have they had started to really shift when we were with them, and it's kind of taken. But like Zinfandel, and there's another one, Chianti.
Oh,
and like there's so many I know the names, but
Italian,
I don't know what they are. Yeah,
I don't know.
It's so interesting. Exactly. That's as soon as I said it, it was like Silence of the Lambs.
Fava beans and a nice
but it is interesting to know that this is Zinfandel, right? Yeah. Zinfandel. There's an N in there, right? Zinfandel. Okay.
Yes, it's delicious.
Yes. Okay.
And we'll put a link to the Rust winery.
Yes.
So Rust is one of my daughter and her partner's favorite wineries. He's like, you know, oh, you have Rust wine? We'll be right over. You know.
He's chef guy. He's really great.
He's chef guy. He loves it. Yeah. And this is good. I like this one.
Yeah. No, it's really good.
Yeah.
So I have a little thing that I did last night.
You did a thing last night.
I did a thing last night.
Congratulations.
So I was editing. Actually, a podcast that will go up before this one goes up. But as I was doing it, we had talked about Will Arnett.
Oh yes.
Who we love.
Oh.
And he's
I'm excited.
Yeah, he didn't answer me yet. But he's not only, you know, does he have a great body of work, and he is a very talented comedian and actor, and
you know what a lot of people are going to hear?
What?
She just said Will Arnett has a great body.
He may.
I mean, you know.
I'm watching the talent, just saying. But he was also a really good friend of Jimmy Buffett's, which is close to my heart.
Right.
So we had been talking about him, you know, last episode or the episode before, and I couldn't remember his name because we all know that I have, you know, problems. But I was thinking about it, and I thought, you know, he seems like and he's on the Smart List, which is a great podcast. But so I Instagrammed him. And now I'm about to go off on this campaign, because I know we invited Jamie Lee Curtis, but I didn't work very hard at that. But I'm going to go off, and I'm going to start sharing on Instagram and getting the people, our community, to share and tag him and see if we can get him to come on. Because Will, it's only 15 minutes of your life, and I promise you, it would be fun. But the other side,
we're really fun.
We are fun,
and we're also fans. I can quote huge chunks of Arrested Development, man. We want the chicken dance.
Or whatever it is. Yeah. But it's also, I think he's a really interesting human. I mean, it to me says a huge amount, because I know a lot about Jimmy Buffett. If they were good friends, that means he's a really good human.
Yeah, there's some endorsement there.
But also, he's had this really interesting and eclectic career that, you know, that in so many things, and he doesn't always play the same character, which sometimes people get kind of typecast. So he's made some interesting choices. I'd like to ask about that, but I'd also like to ask, like, did you ever play with Jimmy Buffett? Did you sing? How did you become friends? I would like to know these things.
Is he musical? Do you know?
I don't know, and that's just it. And I sort of searched around a bit last night, but I also think it would just be because you know, on the Smart List, they're working to make the world a better place too, and they're doing it through great conversations. But that's what
Just
we're
like
trying
us.
to do here. But that is, right? It's just, they have much higher profiles, so you'd be doing us a great favor. But, we're pretty good friends to have with, so you should come and visit us. But yeah, so that was my big thing. But yes, although I did go on this morning after I did it, and there were 2 messages. And so the only people that message me on Instagram are you and my sister, right? But then I was like, well, what are the odds they both messaged me? Maybe one's from Will or Arnett, and they're both you.
They're both me? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see Insta messages kind of episodically, so, you may get a response next week,
right.
Or you may get both of them in one day, so.
No, yeah. but that's just it. But it was like, for a second, I let myself go, okay, I only have 2 people that really message me on there. And what are the chances they both messaged me after I went to bed last night? Come on, man.
Oh, that's
funny. And then I was like, dang. So, well, in a very loving way, we're coming for you.
We're coming for you. Yeah.
In a loving way.
We're coming for you. She's loving. I'm tenacious.
Yes.
I have some, not news exactly, but we teased you earlier, a few episodes back, about some good news that I have.
Oh.
I still can't share it, but we have a little step forward in the good news. So I will be sharing it soon. So.
Oh,
yeah.
As soon as the camera's off, I want to know what this is. Can you write it down while I'm talking or something?
I'm sure you'll remember.
but yes. So the other thing I was thinking about is a friend, and I think it was my friend Lyndia, shared on Facebook. CBC had asked, what day in your past would you want to experience again and again? And that kind of made me think about what day I would want. And then I got into a whole thing in, my little complicated monkey brain. And it was like, do I have to just pick one? Right?
There are no rules.
There aren't, but we'll have to stick with one because we're trying to keep the podcast reasonably short. So what one would you? Do you have one in your head?
You know what? It's weird, but just as you were saying that, I have a memory of, and I know there was a lot of other things going on that were very difficult at that time, but I fostered a couple of kittens for the SPCA about 5 years ago, and I oh man, like we've had so many, and I love cats. I miss having cats a lot. And sitting in that room with those, when I walk into the door and they're like, meow, meow, and then they come,
right,
doing
and
their
their little
thing.
kitty.
They're so happy. And we had a TV in that. It was a spare room over the garage that I had them in there. And we had a TV in that room. So I just curled up, and they were disgustingly dirty, so I had to give them a bath. But then they're cold and shivery like that, and they both curled up like right around my neck like that. I'll find some pictures and I'll put them on. And I cried when I had to take them back. But like, I don't need more cats. At that time, we still had cats, but that was a good day.
Yeah, that's a pretty good day.
Yeah,
you feel you've done something. You help these little creatures, and
Rosie and
got
Brutus, I called them.
Oh,
and then I had to give them back. Never name them.
Yeah, that's
a problem.
The thing. No,
I still wonder.
True.
And then I'm like, what if I tried to find them? What would the trail be? The SPCA must have adopted them to someone. I could find them, and then what if they gave them to someone else? Then I'd have to, like, DNA evidence and tracking, and...
She's writing a book.
I'm hoping Rosie and Brutus are fine and they found loving homes.
Well, that's just it. That's what you hope when you help a little creature or a human, right? Like I think I posted when we did a gorilla hike in Uganda, and our forest ranger, who was a lovely, lovely young man, but he lives in the middle of the forest in Uganda, and he didn't have email, and he didn't and so when we left, we kind of knew this was it, right? Although one of the guides gave me his email address, but then I couldn't figure out what it said, so I spent days sending random emails to what I thought it might have said. But you know what? It was one of those where I still think about him, and I think I hope his life is going well, because he was a nice Ash.
Yes, I remember Ash.
Yeah, but because he was such a good human, and we had this connection. It's that kind of thing. I mean, for me, I think it would be, I'd like to there were times with my mom that I had that was really interesting, because she was quite creative, and I don't think she ever really got that outlet in her life, because back then it was you didn't think you could do that and raise a family and stuff. Or for me, any day on safari.
Oh yeah.
Right, any day when you're going out to see the animals with the guides. But it is interesting to think about, because it brings up the beautiful stuff, right? And just being able to relive something, because sometimes I think we forget how magical life is and has been and will be, and it's nice to think about what that one day is.
It's so important to focus on the good things. This is a topic I'm going to be talking about next week because I've already thought ahead.
Oh,
but I love
she's
that.
getting way ahead of me.
Oh, you know what? I've had it with writing those show notes with the kind of chicken scratch that we do. we gotta improve this, or my head's going to explode. But that idea of seeking out the good in the world, because there is so much that's good and beautiful, and so many memories that we have that are good, and
even with people though, even with those that maybe you're more challenged. I mean, like you can look back. Like I have friendships that had an expiry date, but I can look back and think about the great times we had, and not and understand that we had. It was a time-limited engagement that we had together.
It was
right?
a season.
Yeah.
It was a season, and it was a good season. And that's, everyone comes into your life for a reason. I had 55 years without you, and
but
I was
only
fine.
22, so I don't know how that
how does
works.
that happen? It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. But that's just it, right?
Right?
And then it gets better.
Yeah.
Notice how I said it gets better because it was broken. but that's because that's exactly it. Like you can look back and see the things, and you can also acknowledge in those instances what makes it better now. But again, if we had met when we were both teenagers, I don't think we would have gone along.
Oh God, no.
I mean, I was a street urchin from Toronto, and she was a good
I
church
know
girl,
about
man.
your life, and I first of all, I would have been terrified by you.
Okay, just she knows about my life. It's not like I rob banks.
but you were confident. You were a doer. You knew stuff, and I was like, I will do the right thing that anyone tells me to do, and people like you scared me, and now I am people like her.
Yeah, now she scares me. Just like.
She should be scared.
But it is an interesting thing, and there's a quote, and I'm going to forget who it's from, but it's either you see everything as a miracle or you see nothing as a miracle.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me, like when we walk sometimes, especially like certain like spring, when things are starting to bloom and blossom and
bursting,
and you see robins and or you see like some random crazy thing. I just saw a thing on Facebook. Somebody was talking about what snakes do. How when they all get born and they all nest together and they do things. And I'm definitely not a snake person, but it was kind of like, well, look at the magic of that. I think I have to let my dog out.
Oh, well, we'll let him out.
Okay, I'm going to let him out. I'll be back. Roxanne will talk to you while I'm gone.
I will. I will tell you about this necklace that I'm wearing because Ruth
good.
asked me about it, and this is, we're going to not zoom in because I don't know how to do that from here, but this is made of horseshoe nails. Unusual, right? We were on a trip to Quebec City. This is a long time ago, probably about 20 years ago. Went to Quebec City for a conference my husband was attending. And of course we went to Old Quebec City, which is kind of like, I want to say Old Las Vegas, but that's not right because it's less kitschy and gross. And just, it's beautiful. Old Quebec City is just beautiful.
And charming.
And so full of character. Yeah, all the things. And we found this store, and I think it was called Medieval.
Oh yeah,
something
I'm just looking to see if my
like
mic's on while you're talking.
Looks like it's kind of snarled up there. And I bought the best dress. I still have it. One of these days I'll wear it. It's a medieval dress, like with the square neckline and the zzz up the front, and
so like you could go to a Renaissance fair?
I could go to a Renaissance. I mean, we didn't have money for random weird stuff, but I tried that on, and my husband's like, "Oh, that's coming home. You got to buy that." And my kids said, and I mean, they were teenagers at the time, barely, 2 of them anyway. This is where I'm coming for my wedding dress. Actually, you know what? 2 of them aren't married. I got to remind them. Got to ask them which ones. Yeah.
What color is the dress?
Well, mine is burgundy, so that wouldn't work. But yeah.
Oh, so they wanted to go to Quebec City for their wedding dress, or they wanted to.
They
come
want
to you.
that dress.
A dress.
Yeah, a dress from that place. But that's where I got this. And
it's very pretty
because it's not silver. It's, I don't know what it is, pewter or some sort of something that probably should be cleaned, but that's not going to happen.
No, and it looks nice like that. Like
yeah,
it looks
well,
nice
it's kind of
with the tart, like
exactly.
It's got
the
it's
age,
antique.
the patina.
Patinas. Yeah. She's always got better words.
Horseshoe nails.
Horseshoe nails. That's pretty cool.
And my husband, he loves it when I wear this one. He's like, makes you look badass, like you could be on Game of Thrones. I'm like, yeah, I could be on Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. Let's talk.
Yep, you could.
Why not?
Could you be on Survivor?
I don't think that would go well for me.
Me neither.
Yeah. I would like to go to the places.
Oh yeah, they're pretty places.
And then be in a good, nice place with good bedding and food.
You want to be at the Ponderosa. Like where they go after they get kicked off.
I want to go to the Marriott. I want to go to the Fairmont.
Okay, but so Roxy and her husband Ray and my husband Paul, they all watch, like, I don't know what it's called, Alone, right?
Oh, Alone,
and it's like they all like these crazy survival things, right? And it's kind of like, it's one of those where it's like there's something in them that's off. Like they really,
in us?
Yes.
No.
There's something weird about you people.
We like the survival of the human spirit. When somebody kills
they like
badger with
stuff.
their bare hands. Well, actually, that was kind of a weird scene, but the whole, yeah. You know what? I'm not helping myself out.
No, you're really not.
The more I think about it, the more, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's some people who they're on there and they know how to live off the land.
They know things, boy.
They know what kind of, like, you can eat this herb and this berry, but not that one and not that one, and don't eat this or you'll never poop for 2 weeks and have to get carried out on a stretcher, whatever.
Right. Except that guy ate that, and that's how he got out.
He did,
right?
and it was bad.
Yeah.
That was a bad scene. And I need to look up, he was a Green Beret, I think. Wow. Or maybe, no, Green Beret. Yeah, and he ate this bark, this subsistence diet, and it was not a good decision. I think our cushy North American flora needs a little bit of guidance before you just, plunge straight into that bark diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Work for him.
When I was a kid, and I was really fortunate, my parents had a cottage, right? And I got this. It was by Yule Gibbons. I remember this, and it was an outdoor. It was an outdoor cookbook. Like it was like, bulrush soup, right? And it was dandelion something. And so for like about 3 weeks, my poor parents, because I was like full in on this, so they were like eating this bulrush soup, and I'm sure they were just like. Because they cooked, right? And they liked to do things, and they would on Saturdays have date night, and they would do dishes from different places of the world. And so I got into this. So they're like, okay, we're game if she's this adventurous. Oh, here comes my dog. So now the door's open. It's going to be cold. But then I was so obsessed with it until about 3 weeks in, and then I was like, potato chips taste better. I'm just going to go shut the door.
How old were you at that time?
Oh, God. Maybe 12 or 13.
You were cooking like that at 12.
Bulrush soup.
Bulrush soup. Wow. Okay. I always baked with my mom, and I've always liked baking, probably because it was a thing I could do with my mom, and it was fun, and she loved it, so that was fun. Cooking though was not a thing so much, and at 12, no.
But I mean, I wasn't cooking, like my parents cooked, but I wasn't cooking to cook. I was cooking because I would
to try the recipes.
To try that. Yeah. I don't know, to eat dandelions for some reason. I have no, and when I think about it, because I mean, I like being outside, but I'm not outdoorsy.
No, I would agree with that.
It's not like I don't want to go hiking. I don't want to, it's like I'm not like this, let's go hiking, let's go camping person. So I don't know what the deal was, but for about 3 weeks, I was obsessed. Like to the point where, like, because we were, probably lower middle class family, like to the point, like, I had to go to a bookstore, clearly with my parents, because I was young, and get this stupid book. So where did I get the idea in the first place? Because there was no social media.
So somebody didn't give you that book?
No, I think I must have seen it on some morning breakfast show or something.
Or you read about it somewhere.
I could have read about it in a newspaper or something.
Yeah.
But because it's not like we had an online world, because that's how old we really are.
Nope.
But it was. I should see if I can find a copy of it, and look at what recipes I did.
That would be fun. That would be fun. Don't bother making that for Simple Tuesday.
No, that would be a thing. I don't know.
I think both our husbands would be like, So
can we get pizza?
We
that's
can't.
What they would say.
They don't bring takeout out here, so someone has to go and pick it up.
No, that's just it.
That's funny. All right, so I will talk a little bit about contest season, because that's what it was. That's what it is in my world. So in my world, well, when you have a book out, at least if you're at my level, which is strictly mid-list, which means I'm not a debut author anymore. That ship sailed 20 years ago. But I'm also not, a New York Times bestseller. So I'm strictly in that middle zone where some people know about me and read me and some people do not. So we have to do stuff to keep our name out there. Yeah. And there's a ton of contests. So I had one book out last year. So any of the contests for 2023, I'm eligible to submit to that one. So I've been submitting. I've got about 5 out now. I think there's about 1 more to go. And they're generally regional type contests. And they're usually through Romance Writers of America, because my books are classified as romance. These ones, this one for sure fits in that genre.
Excuse me while I kill my dog.
And I'm just going to give a little plug for RWA while I'm at it. Romance Writers of America. When I started off writing, I was not writing romance, and I didn't intend to. I read a lot of women's fiction and romance, but I was writing crime fiction at the time. And then I learned about RWA, and I discovered that, I mean, first of all, it's the biggest writing organization, I think, in the world.
Wow.
There's something like 10,000 members.
That's pretty amazing.
Huge. It's huge. And the volume of craft knowledge available there, so workshops that are downloadable, conference recordings that where people have talked about certain things. Joining RWA has given me the biggest boost as far as learning how to be a writer.
Right.
It's like an education.
Right.
Just because of the amount of craft information that's out there. However, RWA went through a seismic shift about just before the pandemic. I think it started. I'd have to look back, and it almost burnt to the ground. And there are those that still think it should have, because what happened was the authors, Black, Indigenous, people of color authors that were part of RWA finally got heard.
Right.
That when it came to contests, their books were never ever finaling and being chosen. And you can say, well, the best of the best, the cream rises to the top and all that. But when all of these people, this huge, vast amount of authors are submitting books, and there's never a title that is written by an author of color or Indigenous, what's going on?
Right.
The odds are against that happening. So people started to look into it. And what they discovered was some pretty ugly institutional racism. So here's an example of it, and this isn't RWA specific, but it does speak to the publishing industry. So some of the big publishing houses had imprints, which is like a subset of the publishing house. Here's an imprint that leans towards a certain thing. Maybe it's mystery, or maybe it's thrillers, or whatever it is that they publish. And they would have subgenre imprints for Black authors. One of the ones that I recall, I won't say the name of it, but it doesn't exist anymore. They've wiped that out. But it was for Black authors who write about Black characters, and that doesn't sound that bad when you think about it. But when you think deeper about it, why do we have an imprint that is for historical, an imprint that is for romantic suspense, an imprint that is for medical, spicy, sweet, cowboy, all these other things, and then Black?
Right.
Why do we
have
those
categories are different?
Why do we have some that are oriented about story, and some that are that is oriented about skin color?
That's like what doesn't belong in this line.
What doesn't belong in this line? So think about that. If this didn't change, where would the color purple be? Right. Black author,
so many stories,
Alice Walker,
right?
the Kite Runner, right? Khaled Hosseini is Afghan American. One of my favorite books.
So many stories.
It's called Erotic Tales for Punjabi Widows, and I'll put a link to these books in the show notes. She's Singaporean. She's got also roots in the Punjab. Bali Kaur Jaswal is her name. Fantastic book. But if these were shunted towards an imprint for Indo-American authors or whatever, what would the world have missed from that?
Well, but that's just it, and because it's sort of that, it is that, and in my communications career, I have worked with, in commissions of inquiry that found institutional bias and racism. I have worked to help do that, but that's just it. So I can see it where you think you're helping by doing it so people could find this, except you're not giving it the same platform as the others, right? Yeah. And the challenge being, because I can remember a gay friend saying to me, typical sitcoms, they don't acknowledge me. Like when I watch
That's
them,
right.
and I'm sure that's the same for Black people and people of color and Indigenous, and the world is getting a bit better at it, but we're not there yet. I mean, the fact is that demographics are shifting, and it's like majority minorities, and so how do you call them minorities anymore when like it's one of those things. But it is an interesting thing, because I'm sure in their way they were trying to help so that people could find them, but then if you put them in this cubbyhole over here, how's anybody find them?
No one else finds them. Right? So then it becomes Black authors reading Black stories with Black characters, and nobody else does. And the idea of shifting an imprint based strictly on the color of the author's skin is ridiculous. It's bizarre when everything else is based on story.
Well, and when you think about the books that you read and you think about it, I learned about lots of different cultures, right? From honestly, and I mean, I tend to read. Yeah, I read your books, but I read some women's fiction, some romance. I read a lot of political books, which have nothing to do with anything. But I also read
but they do.
Well, they do for me. But I also read like crime and all of that, and I learned about policing, and I learned about these other things. Now, wouldn't I have rather had I realized what was out there? I could have learned about so many different cultures and so many different lived experiences or fictional experiences because what people do is they reflect their reality, right?
The best fiction is, and I think most fiction is this way, it's telling the truth through a story. I kind of grew up thinking fiction was a lie because it's not true, but in fact you can tell a lot of truth through a story, through something that didn't technically happen the way it's being written, but it's a bigger thing, and there's so much to be learned from stories. So
there is, and at some point we're going to go back to that fiction is a lie. That we're going to revisit that because that's because I think I grew up in a very opposite, where my mom's she had these antique teddy bears and antique dolls. She was the sort of original, I think they call them pickers now, where she would go to, like, back then it was Goodwill. I don't know that we had but secondhand stores, and get things. And antique dealers loved her because she knew stuff and she got really great things, right? So then they could buy them off her, and she made she made good money from that. But then they could take them and sell them to their clients for a bucket load more, because they had these rich clients that wanted, back then everybody wanted antique stuff, right? But she would be like, look at this doll, tell me who owned it. Look at this, tell me a story about the little girl that first owned this doll, or tell me a story about this teddy bear. So I grew up thinking that stories were a part of your everyday life, and you grew up very differently, which again goes back to, it does on paper we shouldn't be friends, and yet we are, and yet here we are, very different experiences about stories, and yet here you are a writer, right? Like that's really interesting.
Stories have always fascinated me, and my parents definitely encouraged that. Within the usually, there were Bible stories, and I learned to appreciate so much about story from those.
Right.
And then, as I got older, I opened up my palette of things that were available. I was exposed to so much more.
Yeah, that's interesting. But it is, stories are the way, like, that's what we always say when we're talking to clients, especially, and if they're dealing with an issue or crisis, and you have to tell a story. Now in an issue or crisis, it has to be real, right? Except you have to give people a narrative, because that's what lands. You want them to feel, so if a company has something that's gone wrong, and it's gone wrong by an accident. I'm not talking about the bad things that people do, that, like, that's a whole other thing. Unless they're willing to admit they had deliberate malice, we don't take them on, right? Because we don't put lipstick on pigs. But like, if they're willing to come out and tell the story and explain it, and they tell the story of how it happened, and these personal things about it, then people are willing to forgive. And I think it's because at our heart, we're storytellers, right?
We are. People connect with story, I think in a way that is so primal, so instinctual. We need that, and if we don't get that, we make something up. This is why, like, I've always, when I was raising my kids, I had a real strong bias towards no S. Can't stop editing.
I wouldn't have noticed.
Toward telling them the truth, right? Like Fluffy didn't go live on a farm,
right?
You know, Fluffy died. Fluffy's time was over, and that's the way it was. Because kids fill in the blank, and if you don't tell them something, but they feel, because they will feel on a gut level, absolutely. If there's something rough going on, they will absolutely know it. And what's he looking at?
I don't know, but I'm gonna look at it. I have a threat.
He's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. But kids fill in the blanks, right? And so, I mean, everything has to be age appropriate, but, and, you know, I probably messed that up a bit. My kids have been telling their therapists about that for a long time, but I really wanted them to not wonder.
So what about Santa Claus?
Oh, Santa Claus was always a thing in our house, but Santa Claus was kind of like a wink, wink, you know? Absolutely, Santa Claus. We're gonna completely engage in that. But the idea of making it literally true, that I didn't buy into. We want to believe in the idea of Santa Claus. Absolutely, we believe, and kids at some point kind of grow past that. In that's the way I handled it. And my husband and I had some conflict about that. Absolutely, because he wanted like, okay, we're going to make footprints coming from the chimney because they have to believe this. They have to believe this, Rox. And I'm like, do they though? Do they have to literally believe a man came down the chimney? This is where
I left footprints, just saying, for my niece and nephew from the Easter Bunny.
And it's not wrong.
No, it's just different perspectives.
Yeah, different, and I didn't fight him on that, but also I wasn't, you know.
I can't believe he left footprints like made his house messy. Because he's a tidy guy.
No.
He's not.
Really?
He comes across like my husband Paul comes across as a nothing's out of place, nothing's this.
Oh, that's interesting.
So but wait, I want to go back to the whole like Santa thing, because I can remember being I don't know.
We went way off book.
We are way off book, but you have to write about Santa. So I can remember talking to my younger sister, and she had just learned there wasn't really a Santa, and this is on Christmas Eve. My parents always had sort of an open house on Christmas Eve for all the people that didn't have somewhere to go and stuff. So you know, people are all downstairs. We've been sent to bed, and we're ready to go to bed because Santa, blah blah blah. And we're talking, and the only reason I know this is because my dad was coming up the stairs, going to the washroom. And we're having this conversation, and she's telling me Santa's not real. Like, I don't know, but because so she's explaining to me, and she's breaking it to me, and then we're having this conversation, and all of a sudden she's like, or I said, okay, but you can't tell Mom.
oh, that's so adorable. Oh my gosh.
But it is so funny. But it is one of those things where, again, I'm not a parent, so I don't know, because I've often thought like. I liked it because my mom loved the idea of Santa, because she was she was that kind of person that, you know, if you said, oh, I like that bracelet, it's like, oh my gosh, you should have it, right? Cool. She was that human, and so Christmas was her thing, and it was my dad's thing. But I've always thought like, it's a big flat out lie, man.
It is a big flat out lie.
And it's a fun lie, but it's a lie.
And I have the idea of allegory is interesting, right? So did you ever read the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Yep.
Okay, so a beautiful story, right?
Yeah.
It's a complete Christian allegory, right? Where it tells the salvation story in another story. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe didn't really happen, right? Any more than a lot of the stuff that is in the Bible may or may not have happened, right? The way people believe it. But the message behind it is what matters. That's the important thing, right? So was there a wardrobe that took you into another land? We all want to believe that. Like, wouldn't that be great if there was a wardrobe and you can go somewhere else? I can't remember enough of the story to know if I want to go there or not.
It's pretty clear she's never done mushrooms.
No.
Okay, wait. So we're going to get off this whole talk because I don't want people at the border stopping me. But so so my goddaughter, because I made her my fairy goddaughter, Victoria, right?
Yes,
Tori.
yes, Tori.
So I was going to, when I was early on, and I was at McLean's then, and I was going on, but I did part-time PR, and I was going to this, they had just opened this big, beautiful sort of antique craft market somewhere near where Victoria's parents live. So I was going there for the evening to stay over and then go on.
Okay.
Right, so we get there, and I brought a friend with me because because we needed somebody to be the Easter bunny and somebody to be, it was a teddy bear's picnic thing, and it was Easter weekend. So we get there, and I put the Easter bunny outfit on because it's like Good Friday, right? And I'm creeping around the house. And Victoria's little, like I'm talking maybe kindergarten or grade 1.
Wow.
Right? And so we're there, and I'm creeping around. But I crept around, and so of course her parents were in on it. So she sees me, and they're like, Victoria, you better go to bed, right? You better go to bed. And so Victoria goes to bed, and she's convinced she's seen the Easter bunny. And then the next day at school, she's telling people she saw the Easter bunny, and all the kids are like, the Easter bunny's not real. And she's like, I saw it. And she said, for years, people were like, oh yeah, you think you saw the Easter bunny.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness.
And she tells the story every time I go to visit her, and I might have some wine, and she tells the story, and she was like, people thought I was a liar.
That's adorable. That's adorable. But that ability to believe in something that you can't see, or the believe in something that's not literally true, right?
Like these things rule my head. but it is, right? The imagination of it.
The imagination of it, right? Like that's the magic.
Yeah.
And I think some people are more able to embrace that than others.
Yes.
For some people, they need things to be, I need to touch
It's
it,
literal.
to feel it, literal.
Like faith for some, like I am not religious, I am not, but I do believe in a higher power, whether that's the energy of there's something, and even people like Einstein and people have believed in these kind of things, but it is that something where it's beyond you don't intellectually know it, but you can feel it, and that's why, like, for some I have some grace about God, because my opinion is very different, and I think God is a patriarchal construct that but we're not going to get into that because that's a whole big conversation. But the other side is I have a bit of grace because I don't know what they feel. Right. And it's a little bit, but it is a little bit like I was just at a doctor's appointment to, it's just a regular checkup kind of thing. But we're having a conversation because there's a little bit where my blood pressure was high, and that's not normal. And so we were talking about it, and she was asking me stuff, and I was like, and she was like, so how are you doing? What's this? And it's like, and I got a blood pressure machine because it freaked me out because I've never had high blood pressure. But then, and I was telling her, and she's like, oh, it's fine now. And I said, really? Because I have a very active imagination, and every time my heart goes like this, I think I'm dying now.
This is what a stroke feels like.
And she was laughing, but I was like, I have a very, very big internal world, and in my internal world, my blood pressure is so high, I'm going to explode at any moment. And she's like, it's not that high, it's a little high, which we have to watch because it's never been really high, but it was, and she was laughing at me, and she was just like, stop Googling things.
You know what? My husband reminds me of this all the time too. You've never been this old before. Sucky thing to say to your wife, honestly, or your friend.
Yeah. But
it's true, right?
It is.
Like,
but it does go back to that active imagination thing of like, when you're younger, it's like there's something going on and you're like, I'm good. And now it's like,
wait,
I felt this. I'm dying. I think, oh my God.
There must be something growing there.
Or it's like, it's hard to go up some days it's hard to go up the stairs because just because I either haven't had a good sleep or I'm cranky or whatever, and you go up the stairs and it's like, we have to move to a rancher. And
no. And you know why? So my husband's best friend from high school days, name is Dave. Dave's a physician. Dave says, never move to a rancher because as soon as you don't do stairs, you lose the ability to do stairs.
Right. No, and that's still that I absolutely do. But there are some days where it's
we need a teeny tiny house with lots of stairs.
Well, but it is one of those things where it's really funny because I've always, knock on wood, been pretty healthy.
Yep.
Right. And so it's like now there's anxiety going to the doctor, right? Because it's like, oh my God, I'm 25. What are they going to tell me? You notice how I'm consistent with that stuff. I might not be consistent with the age, but I'm consistent with I'm never telling you how old I am.
Consistent in being in denial, that's for sure.
I am in denial, for sure. I'm in denial. Okay, what time do we have to? Oh, we're at 39, man.
We
went like so far.
Okay, so Here's our cliff. Oh wait, we need to do gratefuls.
Oh, we do need to do gratefuls.
And
okay,
my grateful. Okay, this is terrible, but I can't help but be grateful for online shopping, you guys. It's been a fun week.
Well, what have you done?
Well, I've ordered some more things, and I love
from Vibe.
Not yet. Probably will, but not yet. No, I ordered a couple of bras from Shapermint that have
she finds cool places.
No straps, right? Because the dress that I bought from Vibe last week needs needs a
thing.
Yeah, it needs a thing. So anyway, online shop, you don't have to go. I hate trying things on. Okay, I hate it. So I would rather return things or give them to someone else if they don't fit me than try things on. So I'm grateful for online shopping.
Oh, that's a good one.
What are you grateful for?
Well,
see, I thought about this ahead of time.
I did think about this.
I did notes.
No, She's way more prepared than me, man. I think I'm grateful that we live in this community.
Oh, yes.
And that you know, as much as I'm an introvert, and honestly, there are some days when winter's easy because like you can go out and you can honestly be dressed like you're about to crawl under the house to do something. And winter, nobody sees you. You got a hat on. It's all good. And sometimes you have to dress up when you leave because I what's the right way to, my style sometimes in the house is like half ridiculous, too young, too ripped, too something, and the other half is like, why would you ever think that would match? And so when you go walk down the thing, and there are very stylish people, freaking.
You gotta come up with a word for that style.
We do. It's ridiculous, is what the word is. But it's like I like to dress up, but I don't like to dress up at home. So honestly, like there are times when I'm walking around in my sweatpants, I have a big hole in the crotch, and I've got this shirt on, like it's from Seinfeld. It's like Golden Boy. It's ripped apart, to the point where Paul's like, "Do I really need to wash this again?"
Oh.
Right? Like because when I like it, and I don't want to give it up. And then you're like Lorelai freaking Gilmore, right? On the Gilmore Girls, you are like.
I wear jeans and t-shirts
and a t-shirt, but she comes out and she's got this cute little belt, and she's slim. And she's got good boots, and I'm out there, and it's like, do I have spinach in my teeth? So I'm grateful for this community because it does make you up your game.
As does podcasting. Today I put on makeup. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be on camera today. I'm going to up my game. This is typically not what happens.
That's not true. Lots of times she comes out like that.
But what a good thing.
It is a good thing. It does make you do it. Although I have to admit, so I was just editing the last couple of podcasts, and I'm a really pale person. I might need to do something about that. Like what happens though when you're editing? Because you have to pay attention to it. So you're watching it, and of course you look freaking beautiful and glamorous, and God. I look pale and I have a dent.
You and your dent. You have a problem.
But I look and it's like, well, maybe I should get makeup that's a bit darker than my skin. Because like, ooh. I'm so pale.
Let's talk about makeup sometime. We're going to do some research about makeup.
And I bet you Kaylee, when she comes into style, because Kaylee
can help us about that.
Okay,
so our cliffhanger for today.
Cliffhanger, yes.
Best one ever. Come back next week to see us in matching onesies. See you next week.
Oh, wait. We have to say things.
What do we want more of, Ruth?
Happy hours. And what do we want less of, Roxanne?
Less bullshit.
Have a good weekend,
now
everybody.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.